Hi, in a somewhat reversal of roles here, I'm here with Jim Goldman of CNBC. Jim, you've been an icon in the industry for quite a while, been around for about 20 years or so.
So longevity now translates to iconic status.
Absolutely.
Excellent. How wonderful for me.
So what I wanted to ask you about, what have you seen happening in Silicon Valley over the last 20 years?
Over the last 20 years, when I first got here, it was all about these nauseating cycles, these boom-bust cycles between the chip industry and then chip equipment and then PCs and then consumer and then enterprise, and everybody would buy a bunch of stuff all at once, and then the industries that serviced those sales would basically die for like 2 or 3 years. And then people would go through the upgrade cycle again, and everything would all change. And you sort of got used to these cycles, which became very helpful for perspective when the dot-com bust happened, which was the worst of them. But I think what we've seen over the past certainly 5, 6, 7 years is an evening out of these cycles. We've seen them sort of get a little longer and a little less steep. The peaks and valleys are a little more flat, and they're not as brutal as they once were. And I think that's a very good thing. I think cycles are good because it sort of by definition means change. But the problem was companies had just enormous difficulty trying to plan for them. It's gotten much better. Consumer technology seems to stretch up and down the product cycles, the chains, and that's sort of helped things so that when the enterprise is not doing well, maybe the consumer picks up the slack, and then if the consumer isn't doing well, then maybe the enterprise picks up the slack. So that's been a very good thing for the Valley, and I think if you're looking for like one big theme, that would probably be the biggest theme. And then secondarily, entrepreneurship, startups, innovation, creativity, that has always guided this area, and I think that is only stronger today, maybe stronger today than it's ever been.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. In recent times, we know the venture capital industry is going through some tough times. The number of VCs over the last couple of years has gone down by probably a third since the peak of 2000. So money's a little bit tighter. What are you seeing in money, entrepreneurship, innovation?
One of the speakers earlier this morning said that seed funding today is the new Series A. And I thought that was a really great point, because that's sort of where the cycle has gone now. The traditional sort of metrics that we have used in the past are kind of out the window. Venture capital money, we're seeing it sort of pick up a little bit, but it's not a dramatic increase, a dramatic improvement. And that may not be such a bad thing. We all lived through the eyeball valuations of the late 90s, and I think there's something to be said for that once bitten, twice shy kind of approach to investing. I think that's good. I think it's great that startups are waiting to actually be cash flow positive, to maybe actually generate a profit, so that they're not raising continued startup capital on Wall Street. Why would you do that? Why would you bring in all of these potential mom and pop victims out there? Let the professionals, the venture capitalists, be the victims. Let them take the risks. And when these companies are truly strong enough to stand up on their own, then they can go and try the public market. So I think that the trends that we're seeing shape up, they might be gut-wrenching for the venture capital industry, but by and large, these are the same people who got themselves into this problem to begin with. There's no reason to fund 45 chip makers when 2 or 3 are good enough. There's no reason today to fund 99 social networking startups, none of which is actually making money, and very few of which have ever any chance or hope of making any money. And yet they all attract angel investors and venture capital. So there's still a hint of the frothiness, still a hint of the Me Too investment cycle, but I think most of that is out the window. Venture capitalists are leaner and meaner and stronger. I think that then will translate into leaner and meaner startups.
Okay, so what's your view of, because you mentioned before, eyeballs versus substance.
Right.
Twitter versus something that we're seeing at some of the launch companies today, which has got real substance to fix a real problem.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, for how long have we watched companies get funded that think they have a better mousetrap, and then once they finally get funding and they get this mousetrap, they get out to market and realize nobody needs that mousetrap. Nobody wants that mousetrap. What happened to identifying a true market need and then creating a company to address it? That's the way that venture capital was when I came to the Silicon Valley, and that was in '89. So not that long ago, but apparently long enough to make me an icon. But if you look at where the industry is going, you wonder where that approach is. And judging by some of the things that I saw in there today, that seems to be the approach. So it's like a back to the future kind of thing. Finally, the entrepreneurs are getting it. The venture capitalists who have been beating this drum so hard are finally seeing some kind of a return on that advice. And I think that that's great. I think that this could be the lip of a great new era of seed funding for companies that actually stand a good chance of making it. And not just one or two, as we've seen over the past several years, but maybe by the dozen. I mean, God willing, that's what we'll see happen. I think that's what we're sort of on par to see.
Jim, I know you're very busy. Thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
Some very, very cogent comments.
And by the way, I can say whatever I want because I have no skin in this game at all, and it's great. I can be an expert today and a goat tomorrow, and nobody will know the difference. So,
thanks, Jim.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Appreciate it.